Take a look at the new Dell G3. This is the entry model to the all-new G series line. This one features a Core i5-8300H, 1TB drive, 15.6-inch Full HD IPS display, 8 GB of RAM, and a GTX 1050. And the starting price is $749. This laptop is made out of all plastic, but it still has a pretty good looking design and it feels pretty sturdy. And you also have that beautiful blue Dell logo. Keep in mind this version also comes in an Alpine white, which looks really good. The 15.6-inch Full HD IPS anti-glare display does have poor color accuracy, however the viewing angles are pretty good. I think it's a decent panel overall, especially at this price point. Now this model is the LG D053F. Now some of you may get lucky and get the AUO panel, which is overclockable to 100 Hz. This keyboard looks and feels like the Dell G7, and the cons were the blue backlight can be tiring on your eyes after prolonged usage, and the keys do feel kind of shallow. However, the spacing is excellent, and the feedback from these keys feel pretty decent. The trackpad surface does feel kind of rough and it's not that smooth, and you also have these weird clicking noises when you tap on it really hard. I don't know if mine is defected or not, but the good news here is it does use Windows Precision drivers, so 2-finger scrolling, multi-touch, and tracking is very responsive. The interior is also made out of plastic, and you have your G3 logo on the top left, and you also have those baby blue borders around your trackpad. Overall, I'm really digging this black and blue finish. The G3 is pretty easy to access, but not super easy like the Dell G7 where it only has 1 Phillips screw. This one has 10 screws you got to remove in order to gain access. Next up, let's take a look at the internals of this laptop. Here you got your 56 Wh battery pack, 1TB drive. This is the base model where it has a slow 5400 RPM drive. Dual fan setup, 8 GB of RAM, but you can expand to 32 gigs. Intel 9462, which is the culprit on this laptop. If you plan on gaming, make sure you upgrade to the 9560, and you got a slot for your M.2 SSD. You do get a decent amount of IOs on this laptop. Unfortunately, my model is missing the Thunderbolt port, which is found on the GTX 1060 version of this laptop. Full-size HDMI 2.0, RJ45 Ethernet, 2 USB 3s, and your headset microphone jack combo. On the right side, you got an SD card reader, but it tends to stick out quite a bit, USB 2, and your security lock slot. For this review, I decided to stick with the base Core i5-8300H since this has 4 cores compared to the 6-core Core i7-8750H. I know it's not like a monster like the Core i7, but the Core i3 definitely holds its ground and is still a very capable processor. My configuration comes with a GTX 1050. For me, I recommend at least a 1050 Ti or above. You can also stretch to a GTX 1060 for the best performance. Battlefield 1 was really pushing the GTX 1050 to its limits. On average, I was getting around 55 to 65 frames per second on medium settings at 1920 by 1080p. However, less demanding games like Overwatch will yield better performance on the GTX 1050. I was getting average around 85 to 95 frames per second on ultra settings at 1920 by 1080p. And for me, the G3 did run a little bit hotter than the G7. On average, I was getting around 80 to 85 degrees Celsius for the CPU, and an average of 77 degrees for the GPU with a high of 91 degrees Celsius. And when you got the fans running at max load, you're going to get around 47 to 49 decibels, which is very respectable. There are 2 bottom-facing speakers towards the front, and the sound quality is pretty decent, but I wish they were facing towards the front like the G7. It would have sounded much better. Battery performance is pretty decent coming from the 56 Wh battery pack. I was getting around 4 to 5 hours on medium screen brightness, and that's with light-duty casual activities. Now if you plan on gaming on it, I was getting around an hour and 20 minutes. So do I recommend this laptop for someone wanting to save some money over the G7 or want something affordable and capable for gaming? Absolutely. Especially if you can score in the $800 Micro Center deal that has a GTX 1060 and Thunderbolt 3. That's an awesome price for that kind of power in this package. The quad-core i5-8300H has plenty of horsepower for most demanding tasks, and the overall build quality is great. If you do get the model with the base 1TB platter drive, then you better replace that drive ASAP. That was the main bottleneck on this laptop. Alright guys, this completes my review on the Dell G3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.